I'm Bobby, 67 years old, and I've spent my entire career as a school teacher in our small town in Maine. My life has been comfortable, modest, and focused on my family, especially my daughter Amanda. I practically helped raise my grandson Tyler after Amanda became a single mother. But a recent family conflict has made me question everything I thought I knew about loyalty. When standing my ground on a financial decision cost me far more than I ever imagined. If you're watching this and have ever had to make a tough financial decision with family, let me know in the comments and subscribe to hear how it all unfolded. My story really begins 15 years ago when my husband David passed away after a brief battle with cancer. We had been married for 35 years, and suddenly I found myself alone in our small Cape Cod-style home that we had purchased when we first got married. David had been a manager at the local paper mill, and between his life insurance and our careful savings, I was financially secure though, certainly not wealthy. Our daughter Amanda was 28 when David died. She had already been through a divorce by then when Tyler was just 4 years old. Her ex-husband James moved to California shortly after the split, sending occasional child support checks that barely covered Tyler's school supplies. Amanda struggled as a single mother working as a dental receptionist while trying to finish her associate's degree at night. After David's passing, I threw myself into helping Amanda and Tyler. It seemed the natural thing to do, both to honor David's memory and to fill the emptiness in my own life. I would pick Tyler up from school 3 days a week, help him with his homework, and cook dinner for all of us. Those afternoons with Tyler were precious. He was such a bright, curious child, with David's warm brown eyes and infectious laugh. By the time Tyler was 8, Amanda had finished her degree and gotten a better job at a medical office. But then she went through another difficult period. Her second marriage to a man named Rick fell apart after just 2 years. Amanda was devastated, and once again I stepped in to help with Tyler while she pieced her life back together. I continued teaching 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary, the same school where I had taught for over 30 years. The students and my colleagues became an extended family for me. Principal Walters, knowing my situation, was always understanding when I occasionally needed to leave early to help with Tyler. 5 years ago, I finally retired from teaching. The school held a beautiful ceremony for me, with former students coming back to share memories. Tyler, then 19, gave a touching speech about how I had not only been a grandmother to him, but also his first and most important teacher. Amanda stood beside him, beaming with pride. In that moment, I felt that all the sacrifices had been worth it. I had raised a loving daughter who had in turn raised a thoughtful young man. My retirement came with a modest pension, which combined with Social Security and my savings allowed me to live comfortably. I had always been careful with money, a habit ingrained from my own parents who had lived through the Depression. I knew exactly how much I could spend each month, and still have enough for emergencies, or the occasional small luxury, like my annual trip to visit my sister Janet in Virginia. In the early years after my retirement, my relationship with Tyler remained strong. He would stop by regularly sometimes, just to chat or to help me with yard work. He enrolled in the local community college studying business administration. I was so proud of him taking his education seriously. For his 20th birthday, I gifted him $500 toward his tuition money I had set aside specifically for that purpose. But sometime during his second year of college, I began noticing subtle changes in Tyler. He started talking about wanting to live in a bigger city, complaining that our town was too small and lacking in opportunities. He bought an expensive car that was well beyond his means, insisting that he needed to look successful to become successful. When I gently questioned the wisdom of taking on such a large car payment, he brushed off my concerns. Amanda noticed these changes too, but her response was different from mine. Instead of expressing concern, she encouraged his ambitions and even helped him make the down payment on the car. He needs to establish credit, she told me when I raised my eyebrows. Besides, he deserves nice things. He's worked hard. It wasn't my place to tell Amanda how to parent her son, but I couldn't help feeling that Tyler was developing some concerning habits. He began to view material possessions as entitlements rather than achievements. When he didn't receive the promotion he wanted at the bank where he worked part-time, he quit rather than working to earn it. Amanda quickly found him another job through a friend. Family gatherings became increasingly tense as Tyler entered his early 20s. At Thanksgiving dinner 2 years ago, he announced that college was a waste of time and that he was dropping out to pursue real opportunities. When I asked what those opportunities were, he vaguely mentioned social media marketing and cryptocurrency. Amanda nodded enthusiastically beside him, as if these were well-thought-out plans rather than buzzwords. By last Christmas, Tyler had moved into a luxury apartment he could barely afford and cycled through 3 different jobs. Each time he left a position, the story was the same. His boss didn't appreciate him. The company didn't recognize his potential. His co-workers were jealous of his ideas. Never once did he consider that he might need to adjust his own expectations or work ethic. Despite these concerns, our family remained close. I still owned my small home, but spent most holidays at Amanda's larger house, which she had purchased after receiving a promotion to office manager. She had a spare bedroom that was essentially mine during these visits, decorated with family photos and stocked with my favorite books. It was during these extended stays that I witnessed firsthand how Amanda continued to enable Tyler's increasingly irresponsible behavior, paying his phone bill when he forgot and making excuses when he missed family events. Little did I know that a simple Sunday afternoon visit from Tyler would soon shatter the fragile balance we had all maintained, forcing me to make a choice between my financial security and my relationship with the 2 people I loved most in the world. The day that changed everything was an unseasonably warm Sunday in early October. I was tending to my small vegetable garden, harvesting the last of the season's tomatoes before the first frost could claim them. The garden had become my passion in retirement, a way to connect with the cycles of nature and provide myself with fresh produce year-round. The sound of tires on gravel announced Tyler's arrival. I looked up, surprised to see his sleek black car pulling into my driveway. He rarely visited unannounced these days. As he stepped out of the car, I noticed he was carrying a bouquet of flowers and wearing a button-down shirt instead of his usual t-shirt. Something was up. "Grandma Bobby," he called out, flashing that charming smile that had gotten him out of trouble since kindergarten. "Those tomatoes look amazing. You've really got a green thumb." I wiped my hands on my gardening apron and went to greet him. "This is a nice surprise. What brings you by?" "Can't a guy just visit his favorite grandmother?" He handed me the flowers store-bought lilies that must have cost at least $30. "I thought we could catch up. It's been too long." I invited him inside and put on a pot of coffee. As I arranged the lilies in a vase, Tyler asked unusually detailed questions about my health, my garden club, and my recent visit with my sister Janet. He even remembered to ask about Janet's grandchildren, something he had never shown interest in before. After about 20 minutes of this attentive conversation, Tyler finally shifted in his seat and cleared his throat. "Actually, Grandma, I wanted to talk to you about something exciting, a business opportunity." "Oh." I set down my coffee cup, already feeling a flicker of apprehension. "Yeah, it's really amazing. You know how I've always loved cooking, right?" "Well, I've been thinking about starting my own food truck business." This was news to me. Tyler had indeed enjoyed helping me bake cookies as a child, but I couldn't recall him expressing any particular passion for cooking in recent years. "A food truck?" I asked. "Not just any food truck." He leaned forward, eyes bright with enthusiasm. "A gourmet grilled cheese concept." Think about it: artisanal cheeses, homemade bread, specialty ingredients. People go crazy for comfort food with a twist. This chef I follow on Instagram makes six figures with his food truck in Austin. I nodded slowly, trying to absorb this sudden entrepreneurial vision. That sounds interesting. Do you have experience in the restaurant industry? Tyler waved his hand dismissively. I don't need traditional experience. Everything's on YouTube these days. I've been watching tutorials for months. Plus, I found the perfect truck already. It's basically ready to go, just needs some branding and equipment upgrades. How much does something like that cost? I asked, already suspecting where this conversation was heading. Tyler took a deep breath. That's actually why I wanted to talk to you. The truck itself is $45,000. It's a steal, really, considering it's already outfitted with most of what I need. I nearly choked on my coffee. $45,000, Tyler, that's a significant investment. I know. He nodded seriously. But Grandma, the return on investment is incredible. This guy in Austin makes back his initial investment in less than a year. And I've been saving too. I have $5,000 for the down payment. Have you put together a business plan, researched permits, insurance, operating costs? His enthusiasm dimmed slightly. I'm working on all that. But the important thing is securing the truck before someone else grabs it. The owner's giving me first dibs, but only until the end of the week. I took a sip of my coffee, buying time to choose my words carefully. So, what exactly are you asking me, Tyler? Well, he fidgeted with his napkin. I was hoping you might co-sign a loan for me. The banks want someone with established credit for a business loan this size. And there it was. Despite my suspicions, hearing the request out loud still felt like a stone dropping into my stomach. Have you applied for loans already? I asked. Yeah, 3 different banks. His expression darkened. They're so risk-averse these days. They don't understand vision. 3 rejections was a significant red flag. And what did they say exactly? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Just the usual corporate excuses. Insufficient business history, need more detailed projections. One even had the nerve to bring up my credit card situation. Credit card situation, I echoed. After some reluctant prodding, Tyler admitted he had maxed out 2 credit cards and was behind on payments for a third. In total, he had accumulated nearly $20,000 in credit card debt on top of his car loan and remaining student loans from his unfinished degree. But the food truck will fix all that, he insisted. Once the business takes off, I'll clear those debts in no time. I took a deep breath. Tyler, I think your idea is creative, but starting a business is incredibly challenging. The majority of new businesses fail within the first year, especially restaurants. Have you considered starting smaller? Maybe working in a restaurant first to learn the industry, or taking some business classes? His face fell, then hardened. I thought you'd be different. Mum said you might not understand. Wait. You've discussed this with your mother already? Of course. She believes in me. The accusation in his tone was unmistakable. It's not about belief, Tyler. It's about practical reality. Co-signing a loan isn't a small thing. If the business struggles and you can't make the payments, I would be legally responsible. So you're saying you don't think I can succeed? His voice had taken on the defensive edge I'd heard whenever he described leaving a job. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying business success requires planning experience and a financial cushion for the inevitable challenges. From what you've told me, you're already in a difficult financial situation. Tyler stood up abruptly. I don't need a lecture, Grandma. I need support. Real support, not just words. Can I at least have some time to think about it? I asked, feeling the conversation spiraling out of control. This is a major decision. The owner needs an answer by Friday. Tyler's voice was cold now. But don't worry about it. I shouldn't have asked. Tyler, please don't leave like this. Let's talk through some options. But he was already heading for the door. Forget it. I thought you believed in me. I guess I was wrong. The door slammed behind him with such force that my collection of teacups rattled in their display cabinet. Through the window, I watched him peel out of my driveway, gravel spraying beneath his tires. I sat back down at my kitchen table, my hands shaking slightly as I reached for my coffee cup. It had gone cold. That evening, I was still mulling over my conversation with Tyler, second-guessing myself and wondering if I'd been too harsh when my phone rang. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. I answered with a tentative, "Hello? Mum, we need to talk." Amanda's voice was tight controlled in that way that told me she was angry, but trying not to show it immediately. "Tyler just left my house. He's very upset." I sighed, unsurprised that Tyler had gone straight to his mother. "Yes, we had a difficult conversation this afternoon." Difficult. He says you completely shut down his business idea without even giving him a chance to explain it properly. Amanda. That's not what happened at all. He told me about the food truck, and I asked some basic questions about his business plan. When I expressed concerns about co-signing a $45,000 loan, he got upset and left. There was a pause. "Mum, this is really important to him. He's finally found something he's passionate about." I understand that. But passion isn't enough to make a business successful. Did you know he's been rejected by 3 banks already? Or that he has $20,000 in credit card debt? Another pause, longer this time. When Amanda spoke again, her voice was defensive. "Everyone struggles financially when they're starting out. You and Dad had it easier in your generation. Tyler is trying to find his way in a much more competitive world." I took a deep breath, reminding myself that getting angry wouldn't help. "Amanda, I want Tyler to succeed more than anything, but taking on a huge loan with his current financial situation would be setting him up for failure. And it could seriously impact my retirement security if I had to take over the payments." "So this is about your money?" Amanda's voice took on a bitter edge. "I should have known. That's not fair. It's about responsibility and making sound decisions." "You know what's not fair? Watching my son struggle to make his dreams come true, while his grandmother, who has a house that's paid off and a steady pension, refuses to help him take one chance on himself." I felt a stab of hurt at her characterization. "Amanda, I've supported both of you in countless ways over the years. But co-signing a loan of this size with Tyler's history of jumping from idea to idea isn't supporting him. It's enabling poor financial decisions, after all I've been through as a single mum." Her voice was rising now. "All the times I had to swallow my pride and accept help from you and Dad. Now you're judging my son for asking for help just once. This isn't about judgment." I insisted, feeling the conversation slipping away from me. "It's about what kind of help is actually helpful. If I thought this loan was in Tyler's best interest, I'd consider it. But from everything he's told me, it's not." "Well, Mark disagrees with you completely." Amanda's mention of her new boyfriend caught me off guard. They'd only been dating for 6 months. "He thinks Tyler's idea is brilliant. If Mark is so supportive, perhaps he could co-sign the loan." I regretted the words as soon as they left my mouth, knowing they sounded petty. "Maybe he will," Amanda shot back. "At least someone in Tyler's life believes in him." "Amanda, please, can we discuss this calmly? Maybe we could set up a meeting with a financial advisor to talk through the options." "I don't need a financial advisor to tell me whether to support my son." Her voice was trembling now, either from anger or from holding back tears. You know what, Mum? If you can't support Tyler in this, then don't expect to stay with us for Christmas this year. The words hit me like a physical blow. Christmas at Amanda's house had been our tradition since David died. The threat felt wildly disproportionate to the situation. You can't mean that, I said quietly. I absolutely mean it. Family supports each other, Mum. If you can't do that, then maybe you need to rethink what family means to you. Before I could respond, the line went dead. Amanda had hung up on me. I sat in my darkened living room, the phone still clutched in my hand, feeling as though the ground had suddenly shifted beneath my feet. How had a reasonable financial boundary turned into a threat to cut me out of family holidays? That night, I barely slept. I tossed and turned, replaying both conversations in my head, wondering if I had been too harsh or too judgmental. But every time I considered giving in and co-signing the loan, a knot of anxiety formed in my stomach. Every instinct told me it would be a disastrous decision, both for Tyler's future and for my own financial security. By morning, I still hadn't decided what to do, but I knew I needed to try to repair the rift with Amanda before it widened further. The next morning, I tried calling Amanda back. The call went straight to voicemail. I left a message asking her to please call me so we could talk things through calmly. No response. I sent a text. Amanda, I love you and Tyler very much. I want what's best for both of you. Can we please discuss this further? The message showed as delivered, but remained unread. By afternoon, I was genuinely worried. This silent treatment wasn't like Amanda. Even during our worst disagreements in the past, she had never completely shut down communication. I tried calling Tyler, thinking perhaps he could help me reach her. His phone also went to voicemail. After a third unanswered call to Amanda that evening, I called my sister Janet in Virginia. Janet was 3 years older than me and had always been my sounding board during difficult times. They're giving you the silent treatment over a loan. Janet's incredulity came through clearly over the phone. That's emotional blackmail, pure and simple. I keep wondering if I'm missing something, I admitted. Maybe I was too harsh in how I expressed my concerns. Bobby, listen to yourself. You're doing exactly what they want you to do, second-guessing your perfectly reasonable boundaries. From what you've told me, this grandson of yours has a history of impulsive decisions and financial irresponsibility. Any bank would turn him down. Why should you put your retirement at risk? Janet went on to share that her own son had asked for a significant loan last year to start a landscaping business. We helped him create a business plan, made him work in the industry for a year first, and then gave him a much smaller loan than he originally wanted. He paid it back within 8 months and learned valuable lessons about scaling gradually. After talking with Janet, I felt more confident in my position. The next day, I decided to try a different approach with Tyler. I sent him a text proposing a compromise. Tyler, I've been thinking about your food truck idea. While I can't co-sign for a $45,000 loan, I'd be willing to help you explore smaller-scale ways to start your business, perhaps with a used truck or even a pop-up stand at farmers markets to test your concept. I could contribute $5,000 toward that approach, if you'd be willing to start smaller and build gradually. His response came hours later and was icily brief. You either believe in me or you don't. Clearly you don't. I sat staring at those words, feeling a mixture of hurt and frustration. When had support become an all-or-nothing proposition? When had reasonable caution become equivalent to a complete lack of faith? Later that week, while searching for a recipe online, I happened to check Facebook. A post from Amanda caught my eye. Without mentioning names, she had written, "It's sad when toxic family members use money to control younger generations. Some people are so stuck in their ways they can't recognize innovation and potential when it's right in front of them." The post had dozens of sympathetic comments, including several from mutual family friends, who clearly had no idea they were tacitly taking sides in our dispute. Tyler had shared the post with his own comment, "Preach, Mom. Some people would rather see you fail on your own than succeed with help." I felt sick reading these public insinuations. Not only were Amanda and Tyler shutting me out privately, but they were also creating a public narrative that cast me as controlling and unsupportive without giving me any opportunity to defend myself. Over the next few days, other family members began reaching out to me, their messages revealing that Amanda had been sharing her version of events widely. My cousin Susan called to ask if everything was okay, mentioning that Amanda had told her I was going through a difficult phase. My nephew Michael texted asking if I needed anything, saying he had heard I was having some issues with the family. None of them seemed to know the actual details, just that something was wrong, and somehow it was my fault. As October gave way to November, the silence from Amanda and Tyler continued. Thanksgiving was approaching, traditionally spent at Amanda's house with extended family. I waited for an invitation, but none came. Finally, 3 days before the holiday, I received a text from Amanda. "We're keeping Thanksgiving small this year, just immediate family. I'll call you that weekend." The message was clear. I was no longer considered immediate family. I spent Thanksgiving with Janet, who had graciously invited me to Virginia when she realized my situation. While her family was warm and welcoming, I couldn't help feeling the absence of my daughter and grandson acutely. Each time Janet's grandchildren laughed or shared stories from school, I thought of Tyler at that age, and my heart ached for what seemed to be slipping away. The promised call after Thanksgiving never came. As the Christmas season approached, I found myself unable to muster the usual holiday spirit. I went through the motions of putting up my small tree and hanging a wreath on the door, but the joy was missing. Each day that passed without contact from Amanda or Tyler felt like another brick in a wall being built between us. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. I began to wonder if I had indeed made the right decision. Would it have been so terrible to co-sign the loan? Perhaps Tyler would have succeeded against the odds. Perhaps the risk to my financial security would have been worth preserving our family bonds. These doubts circled endlessly in my mind as the calendar turned to December, and the small town of Blue Hill, Maine, transformed into a winter wonderland of twinkling lights and festive decorations that only intensified my sense of isolation. As Christmas drew nearer, the silence from Amanda and Tyler became increasingly painful. The holiday season in our small town only amplified my loneliness as neighbors put up elaborate light displays and local shops filled their windows with cheerful family scenes. 3 weeks had passed without a word from either of them. I tried to keep myself busy with my garden club's winter projects and volunteering at the library's reading program. But the holiday spirit that normally filled me with joy now felt like a cruel reminder of what I had lost. Then, on December 10th, 2 weeks before Christmas, I received a cryptic text from Amanda. "We'll be having Christmas at home this year, just immediate family. Hope you're doing well." The message stung in its casual cruelty. Not only was I being explicitly excluded from Christmas celebrations, but Amanda couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge the ongoing conflict between us. The "hope you're doing well" felt like an afterthought, a social nicety extended to an acquaintance rather than a mother. I didn't respond immediately, unsure what to say that wouldn't escalate the situation further. That evening, I received a call from my nephew, Brian, Amanda's cousin on her father's side. "Aunt Bobby, just checking in about Christmas at Amanda's. Are you bringing those amazing sugar cookies again this year? The kids have been talking about them since Thanksgiving." I felt my stomach drop. "Christmas at Amanda's?" "Yeah, on the 24th. The whole family's going to be there. Didn't she tell you? In that moment, I realized something even more hurtful than being excluded. I was the only one being excluded. Amanda was still hosting the extended family Christmas gathering that had been our tradition for years. She just didn't want me there. Oh, there must have been some confusion, I managed to say, not wanting to put Brian in an uncomfortable position. I'll check with Amanda. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. The rejection felt complete now. Not only had Amanda and Tyler cut me out of their lives over my refusal to co-sign a loan, but they were deliberately isolating me from the rest of the family during what had always been our most treasured time together. The next blow came 2 days later. Brian called again, this time his voice hesitant and uncomfortable. Aunt Bobby, I think I might have caused some trouble. Amanda called me last night, really upset that I'd mentioned Christmas to you. She said, she said you knew you weren't invited this year because of some family disagreement. It's okay, Brian, I assured him, though my heart was breaking all over again. You didn't know. That's not all, he continued reluctantly. She told me not to say anything, but it doesn't seem right to keep this from you. Tyler got his loan for the food truck. Amanda's new boyfriend, Mark, co-signed for it. Mark co-signed, I repeated, surprised. Mark was a pharmaceutical sales representative who had only been dating Amanda for about 8 months. That's a big commitment for someone who's not even family. Brian hesitated again. Yeah, well, apparently he's got money from a divorce settlement. Amanda's been telling everyone that you abandoned Tyler when he needed help, and Mark stepped up instead. She's making it sound like you refused out of spite or something. The unfairness of this characterization felt like a physical pain in my chest. Brian, that's not what happened at all. I had legitimate concerns about Tyler's financial situation and the viability of his business plan. I even offered to help him start smaller. I figured there was more to the story, Brian said. It didn't sound like you. But Amanda's been really convincing. She even got emotional at Thanksgiving, talking about how families should support each other no matter what. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table feeling utterly betrayed. Not only were Amanda and Tyler excluding me from family gatherings, but they were also actively working to damage my reputation among our extended family. But the final blow, the one that truly broke my heart, came the following day. A friend from my garden club forwarded me a link saying, "Isn't this your grandson? So exciting." The link led to a GoFundMe page titled, "Help Tyler's Gourmet Grilled Cheese Dream Come True." The page featured a smiling photo of Tyler standing in front of a food truck. The description read, "After being turned down by traditional banks and even family members who should have supported his dream, Tyler is taking his future into his own hands." His grandmother refused to help, saying his business would fail. But Tyler knows that with community support, he can prove everyone wrong. The page had raised over $6,000 with dozens of supportive comments. Some of the donors were people I knew, friends and even former students, who had no idea they were contributing to a narrative that painted me as the villain. I closed my laptop, feeling physically ill. This wasn't just a private family disagreement anymore. Tyler and Amanda had taken our personal conflict and broadcast it publicly, distorting the situation to gain sympathy and worse, financial benefit. They had weaponized our family disagreement, using it not only to punish me, but also to profit. That night, I cried myself to sleep for the first time since David died. The betrayal felt complete. I had lost not only my relationship with my daughter and grandson, but also my standing in the community I had served for decades as a teacher. People who had known me for years were now seeing me through the lens of this distorted story, judging me without ever hearing my side. The Christmas season, once my favorite time of year, now stretched before me like a barren landscape. I had never felt more alone. After discovering the GoFundMe page, something shifted inside me. The shock and hurt began to crystallize into something harder and more determined. I had spent weeks questioning myself, second-guessing my decision, and suffering in silence while Amanda and Tyler not only cut me out of their lives, but actively worked to damage my reputation. Enough was enough. The next morning, I called Brian Goldstein, a financial advisor who had helped me organize my retirement after David passed. I explained the situation with Tyler and Amanda, including the GoFundMe campaign. "You absolutely made the right decision not to co-sign that loan," Brian confirmed after hearing the full story. With Tyler's credit history and lack of industry experience, the bank rejections weren't arbitrary, they were warnings. In my experience, food trucks require much more capital and business acumen than most people realize. The failure rate is extremely high, especially for operators without restaurant experience. "Could you put together some information for me?" I asked. "Statistics about small business failure rates, specific challenges in the food industry, that sort of thing." "Of course. But if I may ask, what are you planning to do with it?" "I'm going to stop being the victim in this story," I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. Over the next few days, I did my own research as well. I learned that nearly 60% of food truck businesses fail within the first 3 years, with most failing in the first 18 months. The average startup cost was actually closer to $80,000 when accounting for permits, insurance, inventory, and initial operating expenses. And the celebrity chef Tyler had mentioned from Austin. His food truck succeeded because he had spent 15 years working in restaurants before starting his own business, not because he watched YouTube tutorials. I also discovered, through some discreet inquiries with a friend who worked at the local credit union, that Tyler's credit issues were even worse than he had admitted to me. He had not just maxed out 2 credit cards, but had also defaulted on a personal loan last year. Armed with this information and Brian's professional assessment, I began to formulate a plan. I wasn't going to continue suffering in silence, nor was I going to lash out impulsively. I would approach this situation with the same careful consideration I had applied to my teaching career and my financial decisions. First, I wrote everything down: facts, feelings, boundaries, in a journal. I needed to be clear about what had happened and how it had made me feel, but also about where I was willing to compromise and where I wasn't. Then I made a decision that surprised even me. I would attend the family Christmas gathering at Amanda's house, invited or not. The day before Christmas Eve, I baked my famous sugar cookies, the ones my nephew had mentioned. I dressed carefully in a festive red sweater and the pearl necklace David had given me for our 30th anniversary. I wanted to look like myself, the teacher and grandmother people had known and respected for years, not the villain in Amanda and Tyler's narrative. As I drove to Amanda's house on Christmas Eve, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I wasn't sure what reception awaited me, but I knew I couldn't let another day pass with these lies unchallenged. Amanda's driveway was full of cars when I arrived. Through the large front window, I could see the family gathered in the living room around the Christmas tree. My heart pounded as I approached the front door, cookies in hand, and rang the doorbell. My niece Julia opened the door, her face registering shock when she saw me. "Aunt Bobby, I didn't know you were coming. Surprise," I managed to say with a smile that I hoped looked more confident than I felt. As I stepped into the foyer, conversations in the living room faltered. Amanda emerged from the kitchen, wineglass in hand, her face freezing when she saw me. "Mum," she said flatly, "we weren't expecting you." "I know," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "But it's Christmas Eve and I wanted to see my family." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Tyler appeared behind Amanda, his expression a mixture of surprise and defiance. "Well, since you're here," Amanda said stiffly, "I suppose you can stay for a while." I nodded and moved into the living room, greeting relatives who looked alternately pleased and confused by my presence. I could hear Amanda and Tyler whispering urgently in the kitchen. After about 20 minutes of strained small talk with various family members, I set down my wine glass and cleared my throat. The room gradually quieted as people sensed I wanted to speak. I want to thank everyone for welcoming me tonight. I began looking around at the faces of my extended family. Some of you might be surprised to see me, given what you may have heard about a disagreement between me, Amanda, and Tyler. I've stayed quiet until now, hoping this would resolve privately. But since parts of our family conflict have been made public, I feel I should set the record straight. From the corner of my eye, I saw Amanda step forward, her face alarmed, but I continued before she could interrupt. 2 months ago, Tyler asked me to co-sign a $45,000 loan for a food truck business. After careful consideration and based on legitimate financial concerns, I declined. I did offer an alternative $5,000 to help him start smaller, perhaps with a pop-up stand or used equipment. That offer was rejected. The room was completely silent now. Tyler's face had flushed deep red. What followed was weeks of silent treatment exclusion from family events, and unfortunately public mischaracterization of my decision and my character. Some of you may have seen a GoFundMe page suggesting I refused to help Tyler out of a lack of belief in him. That simply isn't true. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder containing the research I had compiled. I love my grandson deeply. It's because I care about his future that I couldn't in good conscience co-sign a loan that multiple banks had already deemed too risky. The food truck industry has one of the highest failure rates of any small business, especially for those without industry experience. I paused, looking directly at Tyler for the first time. Tyler, I've always believed in your potential, but belief doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Sometimes the most supportive thing we can do for those we love is to help them make sound decisions, even when those decisions are disappointing. I turned to address the whole room again. I'm not here to create drama or to ask anyone to take sides. I'm here because I miss my family and because I believe in honesty and direct communication. I hope we can move forward with a better understanding, even if we still disagree. As I finished speaking, the room remained uncomfortably quiet. Then my nephew Brian stood up. I think Aunt Bobby is pretty brave to come here and speak her truth, and honestly, what she's saying makes a lot of sense. Slowly, others began to nod. My cousin Susan reached over and squeezed my hand. We've missed you, Bobby. Tyler remained frozen in place, his expression unreadable. Amanda looked torn between anger and embarrassment. After a moment, she turned and walked stiffly back to the kitchen. I didn't stay much longer at the gathering. I had said what I needed to say, and I wanted to give everyone, especially Amanda and Tyler, space to process it. As I was gathering my coat to leave, Mark, Amanda's boyfriend, followed me to the foyer. Mrs. Wilson, he said quietly, I think you should know that I'm starting to have serious concerns about the loan I co-signed. I looked at him questioningly. Tyler's only been operating the food truck for 2 weeks, and there have already been problems. He changed the concept from grilled cheese to gourmet burgers without telling me which required different equipment. He's missed 2 meetings with the health inspector, and the financial records are… He hesitated. Well, there aren't really any proper records yet. I'm sorry to hear that, Mark, I said sincerely. For Tyler's sake, I hope things improve, and for your sake too, since you've taken on this risk. He nodded grimly. I wish I'd had this conversation with you 2 months ago. As I drove home that night, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I hadn't gone to Amanda's to create a scene or to be vindictive. I had gone to stand in my truth, to refuse the role of villain they had cast me in. Whatever happened next, I knew I had done the right thing, both in declining to co-sign the loan and in finally speaking up for myself. The aftermath of my Christmas Eve stand unfolded gradually over the following weeks. The first ripples appeared the very next day, when several family members reached out individually to express their support and apologize for believing Amanda's one-sided account of our disagreement. My cousin Susan called on Christmas morning. "Bobby, I feel terrible that I didn't reach out to hear your side before. Amanda was so convincing talking about how you'd abandoned Tyler. I should have known better." Similar messages came from other relatives. Some admitted they had donated to Tyler's GoFundMe campaign without realizing the full context. Others confessed they had found the crowdfunding appeal uncomfortable, but hadn't wanted to create family tension by questioning it. I spent Christmas Day with my sister Janet and her family in Virginia, as we had planned after my initial exclusion from Amanda's gathering. Janet's home was warm and welcoming, filled with the genuine spirit of the season that had been so painfully absent in my own recent experience. "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself," Janet told me as we washed dishes after dinner. "It would have been easier to stay away or to give in just to keep the peace." "I'm still not sure if it was the right thing to do," I admitted. "I don't want this rift with Amanda and Tyler to be permanent. Sometimes the only way through a conflict is straight through the middle of it," Janet said wisely. "You can't heal what you won't acknowledge." A week after Christmas, I received an unexpected text from Mark. "Mrs. Wilson thought you should know the food truck failed its second health inspection. Tyler is furious and blaming everyone but himself. 3 employees have quit already. I'm worried about where this is headed." I felt a complex mixture of emotions reading this news. Sadness for Tyler's struggles, concern about the financial implications for him and for Mark, but also a sense of validation. My assessment of the situation had been accurate, much as I had wished otherwise. In early January, I returned to my volunteer work at the local library and my regular meetings with the garden club. Most people welcomed me warmly, though I occasionally caught whispers or curious glances. The story of our family conflict had evidently spread through our small community, though my Christmas Eve appearance seemed to have balanced the narrative somewhat. It was mid-January when I finally received a text from Amanda. It was brief and cautious. "Mum, can we talk coffee tomorrow at Bailey's Cafe?" We met the following afternoon at the small cafe downtown. Amanda looked tired, the strain of the past months evident in the shadows under her eyes and the tension in her shoulders. After awkward greetings and ordering our coffees, we sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Amanda spoke. "I owe you an apology, Mum. I shouldn't have threatened to exclude you from Christmas, and I definitely shouldn't have talked about our disagreement to everyone without giving you a chance to explain your perspective." I nodded, acknowledging her words, but waiting to see if there was more. "The food truck." She hesitated. "It's not going well. Mark is furious. He's put in another $15,000 to keep it afloat, and Tyler keeps changing things without consulting anyone. They had a huge fight last night." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said sincerely. "For all of you." "You were right," Amanda admitted, looking down at her coffee cup. "Tyler wasn't ready for this. He didn't do the research or have the experience. And I enabled him just like you've been telling me for years. I take no pleasure in being right about this, Amanda. I only wanted what was best for Tyler. And for you." "I know that now. I think I knew it then too, but—" She trailed off, then looked up at me, her eyes damp. "It was easier to be angry at you than to face the fact that I've been making the same parenting mistakes for years." Our conversation that day wasn't easy. There were tears and difficult truths acknowledged on both sides. Amanda admitted that she had enabled Tyler's sense of entitlement and impulsiveness out of her own insecurity as a single mother. I acknowledged that my approach to offering guidance could sometimes come across as judgment. We didn't resolve everything in that one meeting, but it was a start. Amanda agreed to take down the GoFundMe page and to correct the narrative she had spread among family and friends. I promised to be more mindful of how I expressed my concerns in the future. Tyler, however, remained distant. He refused Amanda's suggestion to join us for a follow-up conversation, insisting that he was too busy trying to save his business. In reality, according to Amanda, he spent most days sleeping until noon, and most nights complaining about how everyone had set him up to fail. By February, the food truck venture had collapsed completely. Health code violations, poor management, and dwindling customers had made the business unsustainable. Mark had ended his relationship with Amanda, citing the financial strain and her continued defense of Tyler's irresponsibility as the final straws. Tyler was left with no business, a damaged credit score, and a strained relationship with his mother, who was now facing her own financial difficulties after helping to cover some of the food truck's mounting debts. During this difficult time, I found unexpected purpose in my own experience. I joined a support group for family estrangement at the community center, where I met others who had faced similar conflicts with adult children and grandchildren. Their stories helped me understand that my situation, painful as it was, wasn't unique. I also began offering a small financial literacy class for seniors at the library, sharing basic principles for protecting one's financial security while supporting family members appropriately. The class quickly became popular, with many participants sharing their own stories of difficult boundaries with adult children. By spring, Amanda and I had established a new, more honest relationship. We met for lunch every other week and spoke on the phone regularly. She had started seeing a therapist to work on her enabling tendencies and was learning to establish better boundaries with Tyler. Tyler's own journey was more challenging. The failure of the food truck had been a humbling experience, forcing him to confront the consequences of his financial decisions for the first time. He had found a job as a bank teller, ironically working in an environment that might help him develop better financial habits. He was still distant with me, though Amanda reported that he had grudgingly admitted I might not have been entirely wrong about the food truck. In April, nearly 6 months after our original conflict, Tyler texted me, "Grandma, can we talk sometime?" We met for coffee at the same cafe where I had reconciled with Amanda. Tyler looked different somehow, both older and younger at once. The bravado was diminished, but there was also a new seriousness in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said after we'd sat down, the words coming out in a rush, as if he feared he might lose his nerve. "I was a jerk, and you were right about the food truck." "Thank you for saying that, Tyler. It means a lot to me. The thing is," he continued, staring down at his coffee, "no one had ever really said no to me before. Not about something big. Mum always found a way to make things happen, even when she probably shouldn't have." I nodded, letting him continue. "When the food truck failed, I was angry at everyone. You, the banks, the health inspectors, Mark. But eventually I had to admit that I was the common denominator. I didn't do the work. I thought passion was enough." He looked up at me. "I've been taking financial literacy classes at the bank where I work, and I'm saving up to take actual culinary courses at the community college." "That sounds like a wonderful plan," I said, feeling a surge of pride in his self-awareness. "It'll take a long time," he said. "Years, probably. But I'm trying to do it right this time." Our reconciliation, like my reconciliation with Amanda, was a process rather than an event. There were still moments of tension, old habits that resurfaced, and occasionally flashes of entitlement from Tyler or enabling from Amanda. But slowly, steadily, we were rebuilding our family bonds on a foundation of honesty and respect, rather than emotional manipulation. By the following Christmas, we were able to gather together again, this time with clear boundaries and healthier expectations. Tyler had completed his first semester of culinary classes, earning high marks and positive feedback from his instructors. Amanda had paid off some of her debts, and was dating again more carefully this time. As for me, I had learned perhaps the most valuable lesson of my life, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to say no, even when it breaks your heart to do so. True support isn't about saying yes to everything or protecting people from consequences. It's about helping those we love develop the strength and skills to face life's challenges with integrity and resilience. I continue to teach my financial literacy class at the library, sharing this wisdom with others who find themselves navigating the complex intersection of love and money. And each time I tell my story, I end with the same message. Standing your ground may cost you temporarily, but the price of abandoning your values is far higher in the long run. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that put you at odds with family members? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might be facing similar challenges. Remember, sometimes the most loving word in our vocabulary is a firm, compassionate no. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to stand in your truth even when it's difficult.